When you invest in people, they become like family. And it's not just a saying, it's through every day walking that walk.
Almost every day, we get a phone call in the middle of the night. Wally, I got a flat tire. Can you help me? I got my car in the ditch. Can you come and pull me out? And he would say, I'll be there in a half an hour. And he would be.
We want to make sure that we continue that legacy for many years to come. In our minds, that's the only way to do business, and that's how we will continue to do business for the next 100 years.
My family has been in Everett since 1907. Sig was Uncle Sig to me growing up. Sig started the F&M Tire Hospital at Falstead and Maloney, and they repaired tires.
What we had in the beginning was a garage. It was a garage. It wasn't formal and it wasn't fancy, but it was always clean. That was very important.
Sig in 1935 took on Nash cars as a new car line. And in the same year, he took on my dad. This was my dad's first automotive job, pumping gas. And these are the same pumps, by the way, that we had at F&M on the street.
Sig liked Papa so much. He was like a father to him. He worked for him from the time he was 14 years old. He had to quit school to help earn money for the family. And he was there until the war.
World War II happened, of course, on December 7th, 1941. And it shocked the nation. But my dad and 12 other guys, independently on Monday morning, which was December 8th, walked into the recruiting office downtown Everett, which is now the old post office, and they all signed up. And it was before the Day of Infamy speech. It was well before we had declared war. But it was pretty obvious where the nation was headed. But they were the first ones, and their picture was in the paper as being the first ones to sign up from Everett. And Dad's always been my hero because he did that. His fighter group was the Night Fighter Squadron, and it was the only one in World War II that had both American and British light bombers. And they were all painted black because they bombed at night. He was in France until the end of the war. But he never really talked about it very much. He came right back to Sig's open arms and went right back to work. That's a picture of my dad at the Washington State Fair with a Nash air flight. That car came out in 1949. This is the year I was born in 1950. Well, there was a tipping point at one point with my dad and Sig. Is my dad walked in Sig's office one day, and Sig was, I think his head was on the desk. And my dad said, "What's wrong?" And Sig said, "Well, the company's not doing as well as you may have thought." And my dad said, "Well, that'll change." And Sig said, "Well, I can't make payroll. We're out of cash." And my dad said, "Well, how much do you need?" And Sig says, "Well, I need $500, which was a sizable amount in the 30s. And my dad said, "Well, I have $500. He says, I'll loan it to you." And Sig looked at him, and he'd never had an employee ever make an offer like that. And he said, "I'm not going to accept it as a loan because then all I can do is pay you back." He says, "I will accept it only as a buy-in, and I'll give you stock for it." And they did that. They were family from that moment on. And Sig died in 1957, and Dad continued on as he worked his way up to general manager. And when Sig passed in 1962, he gave Dad, with his will, passed the whole store on to my dad. Dad always wanted a pickup truck to sell. So and I was at Everett High School in 1965, and it happened to be in the next block. So I walked over one day, and he took me out back. He says, "Let me show you something." He took me out back, and there was a Land Cruiser and a stout pickup and a Toyota Crown. And I said, "What are these cars?" And he says, "Well, they're Toyotas," and I'd never heard of them before. And I said, "What are they doing here?" And he said, "Well, we're selling them." He says, "I got my truck." And that's how it started. We're one of the oldest Toyota dealers in the nation, and we've never looked back. In high school, I worked every day after school for my dad, and I didn't know anything else, and I enjoyed it. But I went to college not knowing what I wanted to do.
Barb and Bill and Buzz, all three of them, always took inventory. They had to take Easter vacation and their summer vacation and do that.
We got halfway through the year, and I came back after being gone for a weekend, and my dad met me in the front yard, and he told me that Hugh Clark died. He was our service manager. So now I'm service manager until they can find somebody. Through those times, I really loved the car business. And that's when I decided that's what I wanted to do. I was in the service department. I remember living at home. There was a call in the middle of the night, and somebody from the fire department called and said, "Mr. Rodland, your business is on fire." So we both jumped into our clothes and got in his car, and we lived in North Everett. Yeah, my dad said, "Oh my God." And we were right here. Exactly when we saw it. It was only 2 blocks from the house when it dawned on us how bad the fire was. This was the main offices right here where the fire was set. And this is where the blackest of the soot ended up. The arsonist that set the fire went into our office looking for cash, couldn't find it, so they took all of our files, which was everything that we had in accounts receivable, and they put it on a desk, and they took duplicating fluid, because we had duplicating machines, and they used that for the propellant. So they started the fire. It was a 4-alarm fire. They started it with our office records. So the day after the fire, we're owed $29,000. We don't know who owes it. We have no idea who owed us and how much. And within a month and a half, they all paid. Every single one of them. They would come in with a check, but we never, ever contacted any of them. So it shows you how important customers are. Dad was just one of these guys that you wanted to be like him, and I think that's where I got it. I don't remember ever him sitting down and putting his arm around me and telling me how to treat people. It was just something that you did, and it was he got to know people, and he loved people, and I feel the same way about people. So Dad was very much involved until then. And I had become, from car sales, I had moved on to, I was his used car buyer. And then I became sales manager for a short time before I became general manager.
Earliest memory would be when I was little. I don't remember exactly how old, but coming to see my dad at work and him giving us tours of the store and going back and seeing the technicians and just running around his office and visiting with all of the staff in the office.
I watched my dad love what he did, and I knew that whatever I wanted to do, I wanted to love it, and I wanted to have fun, and I wanted to be challenged. And I went to college thinking I would maybe join the dealership, but I was going to be open-minded.
I was so busy doing our remodeling and expanding that you turn around and going, well, they're not going away.
In the summers, I'd come home from school and I would work the entire summer and work 5 days a week. And then I remember going back to school thinking, this is what I want to do. The car business is what I want to do, and I want to make a career out of it.
And it took me actually too long. But by college, you're looking at these two, and they're really interested in business. And you say to yourself, you know something, this is going to be a legacy.
But I knew that if I was going to be here, I could be a part of something really big. And I watched the way people looked at my dad and respected him and his leadership. And I felt this responsibility.
My dad has big shoes to fill. I mean, he has put a stamp on this community in a lot of ways. And he has always taken the path that is always the ethical way and the right way. And so that is important for my sister and I to make sure that we always live up to that.
As a family-run business, we want to support our employees like their family. We want our customers to feel like their family when they come in. It's not just a saying, it's really the lens we look through every day.
I think they're going to do way better than I did. I am just blown away by how hard they're working and by their sense of direction and their care for the customer and their care for their co-workers. I don't think they planned for a legacy other than my dad and possibly me. But I think they would be very proud of what has been achieved, and I think they'd be especially proud of the teamwork that helps to get you where you are today. If they were around today, I think they would see that their legacy has lived on.